There was a time when Christy McNichol was everywhere. Her smile, her warmth, her raw emotion. She wasn't just acting, she was living it for real. In the 1970s and 80s, she wasn't just Hollywood's favorite teenager. She was its beating heart, no joke. And then, right at the peak of her fame, she vanished. No scandal, no goodbye tour, no dramatic farewell, just straight up silence. For decades, nobody really knew what happened to her. Until now, a star is born. Christy McNichol was born on September 11th, 1962 in Los Angeles, California, a city built on dreams. But her family's life? Not glamorous at all. She grew up in a modest home with her mother Carolyn and older brother Jimmy. Her father left when she was still young, leaving Carolyn to hold everything together through pure grit and determination. Carolyn hustled nonstop, working as a secretary, selling makeup, even taking tiny roles in low-budget films, whatever it took to pay the rent and keep food on the table. Survival, not stardom, was the McNichols' daily goal. And then fate stepped in. On one of those film sets, Carolyn couldn't afford a babysitter, so she brought Christy and Jimmy along while she worked as a background extra. A crew member noticed the kids' bright personalities and told Carolyn they'd be great for commercials. It sounded casual, just a passing comment, but it opened a door no one in the family ever saw coming. Soon both kids were auditioning for TV spots. Toothpaste, cereal, soft drinks, and somehow they actually started booking them. Jimmy was charming and laid back, finding his groove fast. But Christy? She hit different. She had this spark, hard to explain, a mix of innocence and emotional depth that made people stop and watch. Casting directors saw it immediately. The way her expressions carried light and sadness at the same time. Even at 10 years old, she didn't just perform. She felt it. By the mid-1970s, Christy was landing steady guest roles on popular shows like Apple's Way and Starsky and Hutch. Then in 1976 came the role that changed everything. Letitia Buddy Lawrence on ABC's acclaimed drama Family. She was just 13 when filming began, but her performance? Absolutely unreal. The show tackled real-life issues, divorce, adolescence, identity, and Buddy became the emotional core of it all. She wasn't some perfect sitcom kid. She was complex, sensitive, opinionated, sometimes totally lost. Christy didn't play Buddy like a character. She played her like she was part of her own soul. Critics raved about her maturity and authenticity. She earned 3 straight Emmy nominations for Best Supporting Actress and won twice, in 1977 and 1979. That's wild for someone barely old enough to drive. Fans adored her. Magazine covers, talk shows, everyone calling her America's little sister. But fame? It's never free. Behind the camera, Christy's life was shaky. Her mother managed her career, but depended on her income too. Christy once said, "I felt like the grown-up in the house. My mom was the child." That emotional role reversal hit hard. While other teens worried about school dances, Christy worried about contracts, scripts, and staying professional. Her life was filming, publicity, responsibility, on repeat. No normal teenage years. No break. By the time Family ended in 1980, Christy McNichol had already done more than most actors ever will. She was adored, respected, insanely talented. But deep down, she was exhausted, empty. The little girl from Los Angeles had given the world everything it wanted. She just didn't realize yet that Hollywood was about to take everything it could in return. Fame comes with a price. When Family wrapped in 1980, Christy was only 18, but she looked like someone who had lived 2 lifetimes. She'd been working since childhood, performing while other kids were still figuring themselves out. Hollywood didn't see a teenager. They saw a machine. A pro. Someone who could deliver emotion on cue every single time. So when the show ended, there was no pause. No breathe. Just more offers flooding in. And Christy said yes. To all of it. That same year, she starred opposite Tatum O'Neal in Little Darlings, a story about 2 girls from completely different worlds making a bold bet at summer camp. It wasn't just some fluffy teen flick. It was raw, honest, messy. Christy's performance as Angel Bright, a tough street-smart girl hiding serious vulnerability, was magnetic. Critics loved it. Roger Ebert even said her performance made audiences want to see what she'd do next. The film turned her into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Teen magazines were obsessed. She was America's favorite rebel, confident, independent, but painfully real. And still, the pressure kept piling up. That same year, she starred in The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia with Dennis Quaid and Mark Hamill, earning one of the highest paychecks ever given to a teenage actress at the time. In 1981, she took on another heavy role in Neil Simon's Only When I Laugh, playing the daughter of a recovering alcoholic. That role earned her a Golden Globe nomination and even more critical praise. From the outside, her career looked unstoppable. Inside, she was quietly falling apart. She later admitted she didn't know how to say no. Not to directors, not to producers, not even to her mother. Hollywood wanted constant output, and Christie, trying to please everyone, just kept agreeing. Before I could even say yes or no, she said, I'd be on a plane to a news set. Every yes chipped away at her health, her peace, her sanity. She was still just a teenager, stuck in an adult world that expected her to keep grinding without complaint. By 1982, the cracks were obvious. The Pirate Movie, a light musical parody, bombed with critics. She was even nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actress. That had to sting, especially after being hailed as Hollywood's Golden Girl. But the real issue wasn't the flop. It was the nonstop pressure, the sleepless nights, the anxiety that wouldn't let up. It was eating her alive. In 1984, she took what looked like a dream role in Just the Way You Are, filmed in the French Alps. She played a musician with a disability learning to accept herself, a story that hit way too close to home. But by then, her mental health was hanging by a thread. Panic attacks, nightmares, severe weight loss. Friends and family saw it. She wasn't just fading physically. She was disappearing emotionally. When she asked for help, her team told her to push through. Don't worry, they said. We'll get through it. Easy to say when it's not your breakdown. After returning from France, Christy McNichol wasn't the same. Doctors diagnosed her with exhaustion, anxiety, and deep emotional trauma, the kind that builds up after years of pretending you're fine when you're not. For someone who had always been a strong one, that diagnosis felt like failure. The studio behind Just the Way You Were tried to control the narrative, calling it a chemical imbalance. But tabloids went savage. They labeled her unstable. Another fallen child star who couldn't handle fame. The truth? She was trying to save herself. It would have been easier to kick an addiction, she later said, than go through the years of hell that I did. She eventually went back to finish the film. But the spark in her eyes, the one that made the world fall in love with her, had faded. When a movie dropped in 1984, people saw a fragile beauty on the screen, not realizing the pain in her performance wasn't acting at all. It was real. For a while, Christy tried to rebuild her career. She showed up in Dream Lover, You Can't Hurry Love, and The Forgotten One. But the industry had already moved on, and honestly, so had she. Fame had once been her dream, but now it felt like a straight-up prison. Behind closed doors, she was fighting insomnia, mood swings, and crushing sadness, symptoms doctors would later identify as bipolar disorder. It was her brother, Jimmy McNichol, who kept her steady during those rough years. They had started their careers side by side, and when Christie's world fell apart, he didn't bail on her. She wasn't just my sister, Jimmy said later. She was my kid, my best friend. He moved in with her, cooking, cleaning, helping her push through the dark days. For Christy, it was the first time someone was taking care of her instead of the other way around. By the mid-1980s, she had basically become a ghost in Hollywood. The smiling teenager from Family was gone, replaced by a woman trying to figure out who she even was when the cameras weren't rolling. And even though she would return to TV soon, her heart would never fully belong to Hollywood again. The return and the goodbye. In 1988, NBC handed Christy something she hadn't had in years, stability. The show was Empty Nest, a spin-off of The Golden Girls. She played Barbara Weston, a strong yet sensitive police officer living with her widowed father. It wasn't heavy drama like Family, but it gave her somewhere to belong. For the first time in a long time, she was surrounded by laughter, friends, and a supportive crew. Fans were thrilled. They had seriously missed her. Over the next few years, Empty Nest became a hit, airing alongside the Golden Girls on Saturday nights. Viewers fell in love with Christy all over again. But inside, she was still battling it. The same emotional waves that had wrecked her before started crashing back in. Some days, she couldn't sleep. Other days, she couldn't stop crying. In 1992, during the show's 5th season, Christy made a move that shocked everyone. No big announcement, no drama. She just walked away. Her publicist said it was for health reasons, but the real truth didn't surface until almost 10 years later. In 2001, Christy revealed she had been suffering from manic depression, now known as bipolar disorder. "I didn't want to talk about it at the time," she explained. "It was very private. But now, I want to tell people the truth." Her honesty broke barriers. At a time when mental illness was still totally taboo, Christy's confession was quiet bravery. She wanted people to know they weren't alone, especially those who, like her, felt stuck between fame and fragility. She returned briefly for the Empty Nest finale in 1995, giving fans a real goodbye. After that, she only lent her voice to a couple of animated shows, Extreme Ghostbusters in 1997 and Invasion America in 1998, and then she was gone again. Hollywood wouldn't see her on screen after that. When reporters later asked if she'd ever come back, Christy gave a small smile and said, "Never say never." But her tone said it all. Her chapter with Hollywood was done. This time, she was walking away on her own terms. The healing years. After stepping away from acting, Christy McNichol finally had the chance to do something she'd never really done before. Live for herself. She was 39 years old, and for the first time since childhood, there were no scripts, no sets, no call sheets. The spotlight faded into silence, and that silence became her medicine. She started teaching acting at a private school in Los Angeles, sharing her decades of experience with young students who admired her honesty just as much as her talent. Teaching kept her connected to the craft she loved, but without the insane pressure that had nearly broken her. She often told her students that acting wasn't about fame. It was about empathy, about truth. Outside the classroom, Christy kept things low-key. She spent time with close friends, supported local charities, and found comfort in simple routines. She got into yoga, played tennis, and filled her home with animals, especially her beloved miniature dachshunds. "They keep me grounded," she once said. "Dogs don't care if you're famous." And honestly, that says it all. During those years, she also dealt with heartbreak. In 1997, just days before her 35th birthday, she lost a close friend and former partner, actress Elizabeth Brooks, to cancer. The loss hit hard, leaving a permanent mark. But it also deepened Christy's compassion. She became even more committed to helping others, donating to cancer research and mental health organizations. When people asked what she missed most about acting, her answer was simple. The people. Not the fame. Not the spotlight. Just the people. Hollywood had been both a blessing and a wound for her. Now, she was finally healing. Love, courage, and peace. In 2012, Christy McNichol surprised the world again. Not with a comeback, but with honesty. Through her publicist, she shared that she was gay and had been happily living with her partner, Marty Allen, since the early 1990s. It wasn't some flashy publicity stunt. It wasn't a big media circus. It was just her truth after years of silence. "I want to help others who feel different," she said, "and to support kids who are being bullied." For the first time, fans saw the real Christy. Not the teen idol, not just the actress, but the woman who had survived, loved deeply, and grown stronger through pain. Marty had stood by her through everything. The breakdown, leaving Empty Nest, rebuilding her life from scratch. Together, they created a quiet home filled with laughter, loyalty, and peace. Today, Christy McNichol lives far from the chaos of her early fame. She's 62, still in Los Angeles, teaching, mentoring, and sometimes showing up at fan events. Her net worth, estimated around 7 to 8 million, mostly comes from royalties from her classic shows and films. But let's be real, money isn't what defines her. What defines her is survival. She once said, "I was on the big stage between ages 8 and 30. I left show business to play my biggest part, myself. That line says everything. She didn't fade away because she failed. She walked away because she chose to actually live. Christy's story isn't just about tragedy. It's about guts. The courage to say enough, to step out of the spotlight and into peace. In a world where fame chews people up and spits them out, that choice might be her greatest performance of all. Christy McNichol's story reminds us that behind every smiling face on screen, there's a real person fighting battles we can't see. She didn't lose herself to fame. She found herself by walking away from it. Which of Christy's performances do you remember most? Family, Little Darlings, or Empty Nest? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories about the stars who changed Hollywood and then changed their own lives.